Today, November the 10th, class number 440, titled The Highest Practice. I start out with when Jesus said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things will be added unto you." Actually, he said all these things because he was saying, take no thought about what you to eat, what you to drink, or how withal you ought to be clothed. But seek the kingdom. And the kingdom, as we have learned in Aramaic, is the counsel, the word that became flesh. That's what we are to seek, not to try to make things better than they appear to be. So, with that in mind, and I had been continually contemplating, seek first the kingdom, seek the word, and what have you. And the thought came to me, well, there's no need to tell God that we have a need. There's no need to tell God what we need. And it dawned on me a long time ago that Carmen had at first I thought she said it was a word, a voice spoke to her, but then she said it was more like a neon sign or something that lit up in her that said, I have no need. Then I had I kept thinking about that. I said, it was just like an idea, like a flash of light. I have no need. And that what she had been trying to do, it was already taken care of. Because, see, if I have no need, whatever it is that appears to be a need is really not a need. It's just taken care of. It's done. Because you cannot have incompleteness. God is all, so everything is always complete. It's just how are we looking at it? And then we're going to get a little deeper here and talk about, well, who is it that's looking at incompleteness? So, really, there is no need. There's nothing that's ever needed. And one of the keyboard players in the old group, the Book of Life, the same group that recorded with me, Love Will Rise, this brother said he was praying one day about something that appeared to be out of sorts, and this voice spoke to him and said, I have no need. And so I'm thinking about this, and I said, man, I've been saying that for years, and it never really ever registered that I really don't have any need. So then in Luke 12, he says, it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So God is pleased to give you his counsel, his word, his revelation, his righteousness. Because the kingdom of God is not meat nor drink, but righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. Now, with that in mind, I want to take us back down a trip. Take us down a trip back down memory lane. How often did we have to tell our earthly parents our essential needs? When I say essential, I mean food, drink, clothing, etc. They had taken it on as their responsibility to know the truth of what we needed. It really was supposed to be their responsibility to know the truth of what to seek and God's good pleasure. Now, I'm not just talking about our parents, but I am in a way. How many of our parents practiced this principle of seeking the kingdom instead of Michael needs this and Kenneth needs this and that, I got to go out here and get it for him? My parents did not practice the principle of seek first and take no thought. Well, my dad wasn't there to practice it, but my mom didn't. And my aunt took the place of my mom and dad when she went out to work, and she did not practice that principle. She cut away parts of her monies to make sure that we had the things that we needed, and we didn't have to tell her. Now, we might tell her some stuff that we wanted. We might tell our mother stuff that we wanted, But whatever it was we needed, she worked tooth and nail to make sure that we got it, and so did my aunt. They worked their butts off to provide. They stressed over it, worried, and found ways to make ends meet. And I told y'all before, when you make ends meet, it's just going around in a circle. All the while we ate, drank, wore the best clothes that they could provide, and we appreciated it and adopted the same attitude when we became parents while trying to provide for our own needs. We were working, slaving, trying to get promotions, doing everything we could to get the monies we needed in order to provide for our children. And then we weren't good parents if we were making sure that we had what we needed first and then we took care of the kids. Nope. We grew up with a certain kind of a consciousness that was passed on to us, that we make sure that we take care of the kids. And then, if there was something left, you took care of yourself. Now, as adults, how many of our dreams have really come true? The stuff that we desired, how much of that has really come true? And how many of us are still waiting on dreams to be fulfilled? How many of us have worked jobs we didn't like? How many of us have added second jobs and other means to make ends meet? And how many of us have passed this same practice on to our children and are watching them have the same results? How many of us? Jamal, go out there and get you a good job. Shauna, get a college education, get a good job so you can take care of yourself. And then you have a family, and then you can. How much of that worked out for them? And really, that basically only works out for those who scratch and pull and do whatever it takes to meet the right people and be in the right place at the right time, or either just luck out. Well, guess what, y'all? It's time to stop. It's time to set aside and drop this personal sense of I, because this personal sense of I is really the problem. This personal sense of I, what it's looking at, the personal sense of my family passed on a personal sense of myself to me, and that personal sense of myself trying to take care of my kids has passed itself right along on to the kids, and then there they are with that same personal sense of self. It's just crazy. And that, to me, is, will it go round in circles? It'll just go round and round and round and just keep meeting the same thing, just like the Hebrews wandering around in the desert, going in a figure eight, just going around and around and around. And it's like we joined churches and we got over there with, I don't know, whoever was the presiding influential preacher at the time. The faith message was supposed to be the highest level that we could get to. And we started doing all of the stuff that they said do, and yet we were still out here trying to force fit these things and make it happen in our lives, and it wasn't happening. And then one day, we come across the grace of God. And the grace of God makes us realize that it's time to ask in the correct manner. It's time to ask in my name. And we've gone through this. We've learned through Aramaic what that means. It means to ask in the name of Jesus Christ means to ask in the way that he asked, to ask based on understanding that you're not asking God to do anything. You're actually acknowledging that the two in the house are in agreement. And when we acknowledge and believe that God knows that what we need, meaning God knows that you are going to need to eat, to drink, and be clothed, but God knows he has already taken care of it. He's already provided it. That means we have the kingdom, we have the word, we feel it, because we feel and know I am this. We are only to want to be with God. That's it. We don't even have to want to be with God. We just have to know that that's where we are. I and the Father are one. For no reason except I'm just going to take my delight in being who I am. And we know this in our true identity. I. This is the word that became flesh. I. Capital I. Delight yourself in the Lord. What's the Lord? I am the law, and I change not. And where did the desires come from that we have? The desire to express these gifts, these ideas, these beautiful dreams that we have. It says, I, E-Y-E, I think that's in the Corinthians, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it entered into the mind of man the things that God has promised, the things that God has laid back and prepared for us. This is where the agreement with the presence is. And then this agreement with the presence starts the flow of the desires to express in our experience. The moment we honestly realize who we truly are, the I, this impersonal I, not a personal sense of Michael Orr that's going to go out here and achieve something, but this impersonal I that I am, the flow starts. It cuts it on, and the more you continue to live in that understanding that this is who I am, the more the flow continues. Just like Niagara Falls, it just can't stop. It has always been flowing, but we had not tapped into it because we were trying to get God to bring it to us. And we don't have to try to get God to bring us anything. I wasn't trying to get trying to get my mother and my aunt to bring me food in the evening. I wasn't trying to get them to bring me clothes that I needed to wear to school. I wasn't trying to get them to give me water to take a bath with. I wasn't trying to get them to do any of that. They were just doing it, and it was constant until I got up old enough to do it for myself. Then I got up old enough to realize, wait a minute, why am I trying to do what God has already done, and I am one with that which God has already done? So now the flow of my dreams and desires are coming forth. I went out there trying to make records, trying to get record companies to believe in what I had, trying to, if I could get one of these sold, I have enough money to take care of me, Cynthia, and the kids. Never happened. It never happened because I was not willing to pay the price that humanity has to pay in order to become successful at that stuff. And then one day this week, it just hit, it was so strong. I looked at I tell you what you do one day, watch Unsung on TV, and you'll see how many people went up and then it just fell off and it went away and it never came back. And you'll see how many people were, I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this, never ever dawning on them that they are the I, the divine spiritual self, and God is flowing through them as these ideas. Where do they think they're getting them from? Now, we know good well the I that I am, which is God, is not giving us an idea to rob a bank. This God is flowing through us as an idea of we are already the abundance that we seek. That's how this all got started with me this week. That which I'm seeking, I am. I heard Joel Goldsmith say that, and I said, wow, man, how did he get to that? That which I'm seeking, I am. And it dawned on me yesterday. That has to stay with you and stay with you until it reveals by the Holy Spirit that which you truly are. And that which you are dreaming of and desiring, it will cause you to understand you already have it. And it is going to express itself when you stop worrying about it, stop stressing over it, stop trying to bring it through. Just leave it alone. Because who you are is that which you're trying to demonstrate. When we have God, we have the substance of all. Now, how do I know I have God? I am I, impersonal I, not this personal sense. And so this substance is what? I am. And it says all things are yours. When we realize the revelation, we honestly demonstrate receiving the kingdom. This word. That's all we're ever doing. And once we realize that we are this word, that which I'm seeking I am, you don't go around looking for the word anymore. You just sought to realize I am this. I'm the word. I am. All there is the word. Now, let's go in Mark 11 and 22. Have faith in God. It didn't say have faith in what God could do, what God could give you. It didn't say that. It says have faith in God. That means be assured that I am. Be assured that the I that I am is one with the Father. What God has done, Ecclesiastes, that's how we started back in January. What God has done is done forever, and nothing can be added to it and nothing taken away. Ecclesiastes 3. That which is to be has already been, and that which has been is now. Wow. God will avenge you of your persecutions. What persecutions? This little personal sense of I that's constantly telling you that you're not right for thinking that the I that I am is God, is one with God. There's nothing else to be. You'll be persecuted to no end for that, especially if you go tell somebody that. That will not help you at all. So, keep it close to the breast. Walk around thinking it, feeling it. That's the two in the house. And that agreement, that acknowledgement will cause you to, you ready for this? Paul said, die daily. That personal sense has to die every day. See, there is just no one death. Oh, I got rid of this personal sense today, and so it's not going to bother me tomorrow. Good luck with that. You're going to always, as long as you're on this earth, find some trace of this personal sense called Michael Orr that's going to be tempted to judge by an appearance. It's going to hear stuff it doesn't like. Especially in this political climate, it's going to see all kinds of things. It's going to want to talk about how stupid some people are, how dumb, how this. Then it's say, oh, you need this and you need that. And before it's like it's just all caught up in itself, always wanting something, always needing something. But the I that I am stands its ground. That's what the grace is for. The grace is not here to give you good things out here in the earth. The grace is here to destroy this tempter that's all day long. Because this personal sense is the only devil that I know. This personal sense is the only destroyer or attempts to be a destroyer of the peace that we have. Because nothing can destroy the peace. Jesus said, my peace I leave you, my peace I give you, not the kind the world gives unto you. He wasn't saying, I, Jesus, give you. He was saying, I, the I that's within you. It will give you perfect peace as long as your mind is stayed on who you are. Isaiah 26:3. And when the two agree, that means the asking has been done correctly. The desires of the heart are brought to light. And then what Walter Lanyon calls the shadow, that's the form. This form is cast in the earth. And all you demonstrated was God, the I that I am, the substance. And once that substance is realized to be that which I seek, that which I am, I, the outer form, appears. Isn't that wonderful? That's just tremendous. I really never, ever had to ask God for anything. As long as I knew that the two were in agreement in the house, I just simply felt the presence. I realized the birds don't ask to eat. They just show up and eat. God provides. Because God has already provided. We go look at Genesis 1, and everything is already there. They just come and eat what's there, and they move on. You say, yeah, but what about the birds we see on the side of the road? The deer, these that have been hit. We have to remind ourselves as personal sense, we will always see good and evil. The personal sense has to realize that good and evil is always going to be here. Whether it realizes it or not, I know that my personal sense of myself that remains around is always going to be showing me something that's not working out right, or it's going to show me something that I can blow my ego up with. But I realize that there's no truth to it. One day, I just knew, no matter what, there's no truth to people getting sick, people dying, people having a hard way, racism, all of that. I had to realize that I am that which I seek. I am already this, and I'll be looking at this TV program called The World for as long as I'm standing on it, but I will never, ever believe in it because it changes too much, and I am the Lord, and I change not. Let me give you some examples of some things that have happened since the last time we spoke. I think it was last Saturday, I was sitting here. It had been all day long. And actually, before all day long, I had that feeling come up on me. Now, when I say me, I'm talking about personal sense. I want you to keep thinking about it, unless I specify that I, the I am. I'm talking about this personal sense of myself. So I'm sitting there, and it was a lonely Saturday. And I was thinking about, well, maybe I could call somebody and have somebody to talk to and what have you. But then I decided not to. And then I said, well, I'm definitely not going to tell God that I need something. I need some companionship. I need to be lifted up. I'm not going to do that because that's the personal sense. I'm realizing this. And so I said, well, maybe I could call Orlando. I thought about it. Well, it's almost instantaneously. That's a better word. The phone rang, and I looked at it, and it was Orlando. And he was calling and saying, hey, man, what you doing? How's it going? I said, well, Orlando, I said, one of those, that personal sense. I didn't use that terminology. But what I said was, it's just this loneliness has popped me. This was kind of earlier. And I said, it's just, sometimes it's unbearable. And he was like, yeah, he said, I'm up in Gaithersburg, and I just wondered how you were doing. I thought I'd give you a call. And I said, yeah, sometimes a person just cannot just sit by themselves all the time. There has to be a break in it. And we talked for a few minutes, and I felt a lot better. All the while, I am standing there looking at Michael try to get himself together and become more peaceful and not be so lonely and not be, I wish I had some companionship right now. So then we talked, and then we hung up. I felt a little better. But then it dawned on me that earlier, and I had just kind of looked past it, it dawned on me, why don't you go down to the cemetery? And I said, why? Cynthia's not down there. It's like, yeah, but go down there, because when you go down there, you sit in that quiet and nobody's talking, and you feel real peaceful, because in the house, you see all of these memories and what have you, and so it plays. I'm like, okay, it just P-R-E-Y, preys upon you, and before you know, you get that lonely feeling and what have you. So I said, okay, I'll just go down to the cemetery. So I went down to the cemetery. I said, well, I'm not taking flowers because we just took flowers down there about a week ago or what have you. Well, when I got down there, I looked, and the flowers that had been on Cynthia's gravesite were gone, were dead. The ones on her grandmother and grandfather's website, dead. The ones on her mom and her dad, dead. Her uncle and one of her cousins, one of her favorite cousins, the flowers were dead. And a little voice that said, just clean off all of the flowers. Now, it didn't dawn on me that I was going through a cleanse, but it was like, you know, what's going on within you appears outside. So there I am. I said, well, wow, this is, okay, service. This is what's going on here, service. It's like, yeah, service and a cleanse. Because you're not down here looking for the living in the land of the dead. You're just kind of like beautifying a garden, taking the dead rubbish off of it and serving God, loving your neighbor as yourself. I said, okay. So as I finished all of it, I sat there and read a little bit in the book that I carried. And on the way home, instead of rejoicing and realizing that I am the I and everything's cool, guess where the personal sense of mind went? Here's where it went. Well, you've been down here all this time, what have you. Now you got to go home. You got to come up with what you're going to cook, what you're going to have for dinner, and what have you. And I said, oh, man, well, I'm going to make it real simple. I'm not going to stress over this. I don't feel like cooking, so I'm just going to make me a couple of hot dogs, and I got some vegetarian chili that I like, so I'm going to make that with some coleslaw, and I'm good. I made that decision. Michael Orr, personal sense. I made it. I ate, and as soon as I stretched back and thought, okay, I've eaten, I'm full, I feel real good. The phone rings, and it's one of Cynthia's cousins. And she said, why don't you come over? We're having what we call grinning around the grill. And Kevin is grilling and what have you. And why don't you just come on over, and it's Saturday, and eat dinner with us? I said, you know what? I've just eaten dinner, but I'll come over anyway. See, here's the companionship. I refuse to tell God I needed anything because I have no needs. And now here's a call, and it's the companionship. And it's over with Cynthia's cousins who are there to make dinner for their father and their mother, who I help them with from time to time because they used to come here all the time and see Cynthia when she was going through her challenges. So I went over, and then they said, you can just make a plate to take home. I said, oh, wow. So I made the plate to take home, and I'm saying I don't really want to take too much because, people are, it was like, man, take whatever you want. It was enough for Sunday and another day of dinner. I said, okay, that's what and I did. And it was all of the stuff that I liked. There was nothing on that plate that I didn't like. And then he had some cookies, which I totally liked. And I said, wow, take no thought for your life, what you should eat, what you should drink, and wherewithal you should be clothed. The Father knows that you need these things, and it is his good pleasure to provide you or to give you the kingdom. And I said to myself, oh, wow. This was going to happen. It had already happened. I was going to get invited over there to eat no matter what. But the personal sense said, I'm going to go head on and I got to fix something to eat. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to make some dinner, and then I'm just going to sit down and chill. And here I get the phone call. It's all taken care of. It was already taken care of. And I had enough for Sunday, and I did something different. I was able to get up and fix something else for Monday. And then Tuesday I ate what was left from what I had on that plate. And then last night, believe it or not, I had some wonderful crab cakes that my neighbor had given me, and all I had to do was warm those up. And I love crab cakes. Isn't that amazing? So, because I felt that presence, knowing that I am providing Michael. Michael is not providing for himself, and Michael is not going down to the grave sites and cleaning anything. I am going to the grave sites, and I'm using Michael to clean those things. I'm using Michael. I'm providing for him. See, I have no needs. Just feeling that presence and knowing the truth, those two are the one in the house without any hidden agenda. I'm feeling the two in the house without, okay, God, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. That's the hidden agenda. I don't need that. And so realizing that I have no need, in and of myself, I can do nothing. That's that personal sense of Michael that has to die every day. There is no day that you're going to get up and that personal sense is not going to be right there. You see, in Job, what did we say? And we laughed that day, and now it's become a total reality. The sons of God presented themselves to the Father, and Satan came too. Satan is the personal sense of yourself that says, I have needs, I need help, I need companionship, I need food, I need to be able to be successful, and all the litany of stuff that I already am. There's only one self. That self is the Father and Son, and is always perfect and intact. The self never needs to ask the Father for anything. The two are always one in the house. I and my Father are one. Here are a few more examples. Jamal called me yesterday with all kinds of problems on his job and all of this and all of that. And I sat here listening and listening and listening and listening and listening. And my brother can tell you that when Jamal starts rocking it, it can go for a half hour without you getting a word in. And so he's just going on and on and on and on. And I said, Ma, okay, man, I hear you and what have you. But in the inside, my inner was saying, there is no such I with problems. This little personal sense that Jamal has of himself is the culprit. And it's the one that's having the problems of people not paying attention and thinking that they know more of how to do what he's got all of these years of training to do. That's what's going on in churches, y'all. That's what. If there is a pastor or a teacher who finally understands the I that I am and realizes what he is, he will always have somebody in that congregation that's going to say, well, we think we need this, or we think, you're not preaching this, or you're not doing this, or you're going to always have that because collectively groups don't come into I am that I am. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. They don't come into that. And so I realized there is no Jamal who is struggling with any kind of problem. In the meantime, I might as well come into realizing that there is no Shauna, my daughter, coming into to problems. There's no such thing. There's only I. God is the only self, and I have no needs. Yesterday had to be the day from you know who or you know where. This other friend called, and she says, this mutual friend of ours has breast cancer. And I don't want you to let her know that I told you. And so I want you to, she's struggling and she's going to have to go to the doctor. And then I went on this. Well, hers is nowhere near the conversation of Jamal's. It's only about 5 minutes. And I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to feel the presence. And I'm going to know the truth about our friend. She said, oh, thank you. I said, and plus, not only that, I'm going to send you a clip. And then you just don't have to tell her that it came from me. You just listen at it, and then you send it to her if you think it appropriate. And she said, okay. And then there's another girl that Cynthia grew up with. I might have told you about her last week. She has to go to dialysis 3 times a week, and now she needs heart surgery. And I said, I'm just going to close my eyes and realize there is no such person. There is no such person in all the universe, because I am the self. I is God, and I is in control all the time. So I have no needs. I am that I am. A friend's church is seriously in trouble financially. And then they've got poor leadership. And I said, well, who is it who's seeing the poor leadership? Who is it who's seeing the poor financial situation? Who is it who's judging that they don't know what they're doing? And the answer came back, Michael. I said, well, there's no such church. There's no such being. I know y'all are getting my point now. It's how you look at something. And if you allow your personal sense of yourself to look at it and judge it, then that's what your experience with it is going to be. But the moment you realize these people don't exist, this world doesn't exist, my kingdom is not of this world, I don't have to overcome this world. I have overcome the world. It says this is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. Faith in what? God. What is God? I, that impersonal self. Michael is looking at mortal concepts that cannot be raised up to the spiritual level. I don't care how hard you try to get this personal sense of yourself to be born again. It's never going to replace the fact that God is individual being, and recognizing this, you're free. You're free to be who you are. There is no such thing as you trying to become something. You can forget that. It's never going to happen. You are all there is. The I. Not you, the personal sense, because the personal sense is going to change, flip and flop, back and forth. Because the personal sense of itself realizes it's got problems and it needs somebody to fix them. I have no problems, don't need to fix anything. I just need to see it for what it is. That's why I posted that yesterday. I posted something that said behind every female and every male, there is God. And that's all there is. And looking past the male and the female, well, your personal sense is not going to look past the male and the female. But the I that I am realizes the I in everyone. Who is it who really fears? Who doubts? Who is it who doesn't believe? It's this little I, this personal sense. It's trying to believe. It's trying to wait for the thing to make sense. And it's never going to make any sense. Never. Personal sense is never going to make sense out of something that makes no sense. It's the problem. It's the culprit. Not the stuff you're looking at. That's not the problem. It's the personal sense that is the problem. It's the creator of good and evil. When he says, I create good and I create evil, it finally makes sense to me. This little personal sense makes good and it makes evil. It makes polarity. It makes that, and to me, that's not even polarity. To me, that's just Polarity is positive and a negative, like the terminals on a battery that causes it to electronically fire the starter and make an engine start up. Good and evil, that's bad and good, and stuff that's discord. God can't use discord to make sense. God doesn't know anything about discord. God, and God that I am, I and the Father, one, two in the house, where can there be discord? Fear not, it is I. Fear not the appearance. Love not the appearance, it is I. Remember when the disciples went off and they came back and they were jumping for joy because they were talking about the demons were running away from them, and Jesus said, don't rejoice because the demons flee at your name. Flee at your name? They flee because of who you are, the I. I want you to rejoice because your name is written in heaven in the book of life. What is your name? I am this. And this is the highest practice. I am this. I am not the personal sense called Michael Anthony Orr. I am the Christ, the light, the Son of God, and I am one with the Father. Those two are one in the house. And as long as I walk in this earth, knowing that truth, being that truth, by the grace of God, this is the highest practiced. Never go back to trying to make the personal sense of yourself make sense. Why some are too large, why some are not large enough, why some are not as attractive as others, why some, that's just all personal sense. That makes no sense, and God doesn't have anything to do with it at all. But the moment I look at an appearance and realize there is nothing there but God, the appearance breaks up and disintegrates if it is one that is determined to be discordant. If it is one that is determined to be good as we know it in this world, just accept it and move on. Don't rejoice over it. Rejoice because you realize as the I, you are that which is the highest practiced being practiced. Amen. And so it is.